Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes from their first to their worst. We're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, an award-winning talent, Elisheba Israel Mrozik, aka Queen Bee Inc., an otaku, mother, skin and canvas artist, and all-around world-traveling adventurer who is here to talk not only about all her community art events she has going on this fall, but also her crush on a true Renaissance man, the master of contrast, Caravaggio. How are you today?
I am wonderful today. How about you?
I'm doing good. It's beautiful out. Can't complain. So are you ready to talk about your art crush?
Oh, yes. I could always talk about him. And everything.
So it's like, I'll set the scene. It's like 20 or so years ago, and you're in Mr. Wilson's art class, and Caravaggio is the lesson of the day. Were you like instantly hooked to him and his style?
Yes. So Mr. Wilson, number one, I just have to say that my high school art teacher, Mr. Wilson, was phenomenal. Okay. He was an amazing artist in his own right. And it was literally the universe, I feel like, that made him my art teacher. He was a Black man, a fine artist, and he really, really wanted to see his students grow. And he was actually going to retire. And then I was like, no, I have 1 year left. And so he stayed 1 extra year just for me because I was the only kid in AP art.
Oh my God, was it like you like legit the only kid in the class?
And yeah, well, it was because I was the only one. They had put me with the regular class, and I had separate work from them because there was not enough people to make it a class.
Okay, I was like, wait a minute. So you just went in this room, you and him vibing on art for a period?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been dope because then I would have got all the attention instead of the little bad kids who was just like wasting time, half the time spent correcting behavior.
Oh my God, I know what you mean. I was like an honors student, but I didn't want to take like honors history because I was like, what more can you do with history, World War I stuff. So I did take it with the regular kids, and it was exhausting.
Oh my goodness.
When you're like all we had to do was tape stuff into a notebook, like a 5-star notebook, and highlight stuff. And these kids were like, it was the hardest thing in the world. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Regrets.
Right. I understand.
Was this a class you took here stateside, or was it when you spent time studying abroad?
Yeah, so this was my high school. I'm from Memphis, and I went to Ridgeway High School. And Mr. Wilson was my art teacher here. And I was overseas at the end of 11th grade, beginning of my senior year. In 2001, I went to Japan for foreign exchange student program, but my mom would not let me stay the whole year. So unfortunately, I was only there for the summer. But I did get to go to school because they do a year-round school with a shorter summer break block than we do. And so I did get to go to school. I got to do kendo. I got to do just everything. I lived with the family, ate the food, spoke the language. It was amazing. And it was also like, I was already an anime video game fan, but going there really exponentially exploded that. But Mr. Wilson was always super supportive of my love of like Japanese art and culture, and let me use that in my senior, kind of portfolio, which was dragons. Funnily, like that was my literal portfolio. Day portfolio was dragons.
Just like all dragons all day.
Literally, and the people didn't like. So they did not like it. So I didn't get the high marks, but I did pass it at least. They didn't like my thing. They wanted me to do some bowls of fruit or something. I don't know, but. I was trying to be a bad bee like Caravaggio. He was a bad dude. He was a like bad dude, both actually and with a paintbrush. So, and when Mr. Wilson first introduced his work to me at school, I was like, how does he make stuff look so smooth and like it's just coming out of the shadows? It's not choppy, like it's like this perfect transition, and they look like a M. Night Shyamalan movie where you see them like emerge from the darkness, and like that feel was what made me love his work.
Yeah, for those who aren't like art history nerds or anything like that, like like, I think if you just took at least one history like class and it had anything to do with the Renaissance, like, his work, because it is very that light and dark. It's very distinct. I remember, like, I was looking it up and I was like, I took AP art history as well, not because like I'm not like an artist or anything. It's just like another AP class to put on my my papers, try to get to college. So I was like, all right. And I just like was like, oh yeah, the light and dark guy. It's like the little Jeopardy fact I knew about him.
Well, and once people see his work, they'll recognize it because it's some of the most famous images of that kind of period. And he's very different from all his other contemporary counterparts at the time because they look just so specific. And it's really interesting because he never left instructions on how he had his technique. So people are just guessing as to what he did.
Now, you are in art history, AP art history by the time you're a senior. So it's pretty like you were into art way before this. It wasn't like you got into Mr. Wilson's class like your last year and fell in love with art. Like you were doing art before that.
Yes. And actually, my kindergarten art teacher, her name was Mrs. Perry. Okay. And this was in Memphis, Tennessee. I went to Germantown Elementary, and my art teacher told my mom in kindergarten that she thinks that I may have a talent and to let me do after school classes with her first. And so I did classes with her, and then my mom kept me in classes at various institutions like Memphis College of Art, which was my alma mater, and the community courses, and just kept my love of art going throughout the years. And I just kept, creating. But it was Miss Perry who first noticed that I had any kind of talent and encouraged me to really work on it and love it and learn about it. It's amazing how much something small like that early on in your life can have such a prime effect on you. And it really helps.
From Miss Perry to Mr. Wilson, I mean, and then you found this Caravaggio. Did like getting into him kind of make you dig deeper into the Renaissance as a whole, or were you just like, let me stick to my boy and the art of the period? Who cares about like the other stuff?
Well, it really stuck to me in many ways. Like I went into the art of the period, but I expanded art, to art overall. But I didn't really like at the time when I was younger any of the more contemporary stuff. I did not like abstraction or disfiguration as much. I loved the fact that they could make things like realistic but not photograph. There's that difference. Like it still looks like a painting, a creation of work, but it's very like a dream almost. And so that really got me into a lot of figurative art, and also wondering why there's no Black people in any of these things. It really made me paint more.
They are a little MIA.
Yeah. And when they are there, they are a lot of times, for some reason, like they could not paint Black people a lot of the times, even though they had such skill in creating a white person. But they were so stuck on that they couldn't change it. But like I really enjoy that kind of work, and because it just shows like master skill and technical ability, as well as creativity in creating a process to make something look like that. Whereas abstraction, I've come to appreciate it a lot more recently, abstract work and more modern contemporary work, because it's not about necessarily the art and technical skill of it in those pieces. It's more about the meanings they're trying to convey and like the emotions or message that it's trying to convey. But you gotta actually like read their statement to know what any of those are about. So that's I'd rather like know when I look at it.
Back to the whole idea of them not being able to, paint Black people. Why do you think that is? Is maybe they weren't seeing them as often? Were they like so exotic to them? Like,
so funny, because I used to think that, it was just, racism, or overall you paint who your patrons are. And if you're in a white society, you're going to paint white people. If you are commissioned to paint, Jesus, and the church is telling you how they want Jesus to look because that's who's paying you, you're gonna do it how they want. So just so like now they had an entire industry of art schools and artists who fought for commissions from big money people like the church and rich families, and they had to paint what they want, like they painted how they wanted, but at the same time they had to paint what the people want. So that was part of it. But also one thing I found out, which is really interesting, I went to France in 2019. So glad I took that trip then, because I would have been so disappointed. I was supposed to go somewhere in 2022, but I'm still waiting on that trip. But I went to France, and there was a show called The Black in Western Art, Le Mado Noir. It was amazing because apparently they used Black slaves, one in particular, but they used them as figure models to all these white people in the picture, used them to practice. So some of these Jesus bodies walking around is Mutombo's body, with a white man face on it. It's so amazing and interesting because every time I dig even a little bit, and I'm not YouTube digging, real world digging into everything, Black people are at the base of it. And it's really amazing how well things like that have been covered up.
The history of the world of America, it like you wish. You're like, where are the real history books? The real keepers of this, because these stories are they're going to be lost eventually. And it's insane what they teach us in school versus what really happens. And it's a whole mess. It's a mess.
It's quite a mess, but that's going to be a whole nother podcast, because I tell you what, I just need to make one just talking, but I just, after a while, you get tired of talking to a wall.
We'll get back to Caravaggio.
Yes.
So what about him made you think, yes, this is my artist crush? Was it him as a person, or was it more his artistry?
Well, him as a person, we probably would not have been friends in real life, but he was like a drunk and a brawler, and he even killed somebody and was a fugitive, all while painting masterpieces. Cause he ended up, I think, being shot to death by officers when he was trying to come back into the city because he had permission to get, I think, a commission from a family, but they didn't tell the officers. So when they saw him, they got him. And he was very young. He was only in his 30s. And I probably wouldn't have been cool with him, but you want to vibe. Yeah, we wouldn't have vibed in real life, but I feel like his artwork has had such a major influence over my personal perception of art and what I love aesthetically about artwork, as well as some of the techniques I now use in my art to tell it a different way. I use some of that same kind of religious imagery sometimes, but really it's more about the figure, how he painted the figure, how I always have my figures kind of either in darkness or dark skin or dark around them, but with light somehow in it, light or gold or flame or something like that within a piece. And that Caravaggio, really encompasses all of that, which is why I was thinking about him as my crush. And when I went to Italy in 2019, I went on a little Caravaggio pilgrimage, and I went to all the different churches that his work was in, all the museums. I missed a few because I didn't have enough time, but I was going to go back in 2020 and see the rest.
We don't talk about that year.
No, we don't talk about that. I will go back though as soon as I can. Hopefully next year I'll be able to go back and finish my little Caravaggio pilgrimage and try to see all the works that are available for the public to see, because they're impressive in person. They're gigantic.
I was going to say, seeing them in a book or, on the internet is one thing, but did you have a favorite piece before you went and saw them in person? And then maybe when you saw it in person, you're like, no, this one's my favorite because it just hits different.
So I love them all, but the one that is my favorite still to this day, even though I've seen the others, is Beheading Holofernes. Judith beheading Holofernes. And it's this chick, Judith, and she cutting dude head off, and there's an old lady standing behind her with a bag ready to take dude head and go. And it's based off of a biblical story, but it's so good. Everything in it is amazing, and it's so good. Now, I did not get to see that one in person because it was in a different city at the time. It was on a tour. So, but I've seen The Calling of St. Matthew was the other one. That one I saw in person, and that's a close second, because when you see that one and just how it looks like it's glowing in person, and you just don't even get that effect, in a book.
Yeah.
It looks good in the book, but it's flat, and all of that depth that's there in person is missing. Seeing those in person, and they're gigantic again, like they are like 10 feet tall or something. They're really, really big, and just being able to see them in person is a great experience.
Yeah, like when you go to a museum and you're just taken aback by how big things are, and then you're thinking like, God, these people did not live in these tiny apartments like we do today. These things were in homes.
Yes.
In real buildings, just like crazy. So yeah. Caravaggio, the crush is more on the creative aspect. And I wanted to ask, like, throughout your life, have you found that when you do crush on somebody and they are like artistic, do you fall for like their artistry first, or like the person?
This is a tough question I've been kind of asking myself, because there are some people in all aspects of artistry, from music to, art, painting art, that their art is more amazing than the person was. The person was probably trash or was trash or had some trash tendencies. So I hate to completely separate the art from the artist, but sometimes you kind of have to, you know what I'm saying? Like if I had a thing against all murderers, then Caravaggio killed somebody. Do I then hate his artwork? And it gets really murky in cases of, inappropriate behavior on a deeper level. So it's difficult to say, but I definitely have some people whose art I really love, and who the person, I'm like, how can you make such amazing artwork? But then I also have people who are both.
Tortured souls are artists, I guess, is the thing.
I want to be tortured. I feel like I've had some torture-ish things, but I also realized that I was born in an excellent time to be who I am, which is a fat Black woman in America. So it has been, if I had been born at any other time, would any of my life have been possible?
I know, I think about that often.
Exactly. And when I went to the beach, I went to the island last year, and I was on St. Croix, and I was able to stay for like 2 months because I was working at a tattoo shop down there still. And when I was just on the beach, I had a nice place to stay. It was great. And I was just like, would anybody have even thought this was possible 10 years ago, that I could be doing what I do, which is tattoo and art, be who I am, which is, again, fat Black girl, and be living this way, like, would anybody even thought that was possible? Like, oh yeah, this chick, she's a tattooer, and she travels the world, and she's got a shop, and she's got enough money. She ain't super poor now like she was. It's not ramen noodles every night, but it ain't steak and lobster every night. But we're better, and you're able to experience things that other people would not be able to experience. I just happened to show up in France when the Black in Western art show was there. I just happened to show up there. It was the first time it's been shown. So like, I know that my situation and circumstances is definitely like a new thing in this world and timeline, and I'm super grateful.
Yeah, and we're also lucky because at least in America, in most parts, we're also able to like love who we want and be with who we want. Have you found that like some artists I've talked to, whether they're music or whatnot, some of them don't want to be with other creative people, but some, that's who they gravitate towards most, because that's, they want someone who knows their world. Where do you fall on that spectrum? Do you have to like date or marry somebody who's into the art world?
No, but they should probably have an appreciation and understanding and love of art to be able to deal with me and what I do and who I am. And my husband is definitely that. He is a writer, so he is a creative, but he's not like a painter creative, or visual art creative, but he definitely appreciates and understands art and what's behind it, the meaning behind it, the people behind it, and just that whole process of needing a space and a place to be able to create, to be able to express yourself. And he's also just like a really good, like, building, fixing, problem solving guy, which was super perfect for what I need.
Necessity.
Yes. because I'm a bit a scatterbrain kind of artist where I'm always thinking up so many ideas that it's really difficult to finish ideas. So I have to need somebody that's more like chop, 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 be like, stay on track. So he's really perfect for that. And again, like you saying, being and loving who we love wouldn't again not be possible other times in history, not very much longer before this, because he's a white guy and he comes from a very, conservative family for the most part, and very random us being together, number one. I'm going to tell you the story of how we met because it's necessary. So I met him on an app called Meet Me, 10 years ago this year. And so he messaged me, and I had a bunch of pictures up there were like professional pictures of me in my tattoo shop. And I had like a gun, like a real gun, not a tattoo gun. Not a tattoo machine. And it was just a funny picture. My friend was at school for photography. And so she took these pictures. But he saw those and sent me a message, and he just asked me what my name was and what it meant, because he was like, it's a very unique name. And so I told him it's in the Bible one time, Exodus 6:23. And then I saw that his name was Aaron, and I sent him a message back, and I was like, hey, don't run away or anything, but you should go and look up Exodus 6:23, because that says, and Aaron married Elisheba and had so many kids. So he saw that and he was just like, what? And they were very, like I said, very conservative Christian family. And so it was like the sign, I guess.
They're like, well, it's in Exodus. I mean, it's meant to be.
And that really is where it started. And we've been together ever since. And we are kind of perfect for each other. It's very interesting and weird. And we actually talk all the time because it just seems like so many people do not find the right people for them. And when we are together, it just makes sense. It's supposed to be that way, and nothing should be different. And we can't imagine it any other way, which is, thank God, I just don't want to date again. Oh
my God, that's the same. I'm like, thank God I found him. This is it. Because it's a struggle. It's just like so much work. I love the free food though. Like I was broke, so I'd just say yeah to dates to eat.
Look, my daughter, I'm so sad for her though, because she just turned 18 and like it's a mess. It's a cesspool out here.
It's too much. It's like either be single or you're dating. This better be the one. I ain't got time for this. So thankfully you did find the one and you don't have to date anymore. But back in the day when you were dating, were you like looking at the bad boys? Because Caravaggio, like you said, there is murder in his history. It's not just one. I think there was a few he might have been involved in. He was fleeing countries. He, like you said, he was a bar brawler and drank too much. But did you kind of, I think maybe have a bad boy phase at one point?
Oh yeah, I did. And oh gosh, taught me lessons though. But I feel like we are all kind of pressured into that because of popular culture as well. And what you see, especially my mom was a single mom, she really didn't date too much. And if you don't see how a good relationship should be, then you're going to go for what popular culture kind of tells you. Beyonce was out here telling us, I need a soldier, yada, yada, like everybody was kind of hopping on this bandwagon of terrible relationship advice, and we're pumping it into us as a people. And so I feel like looking for that was more so a pressure, like especially in Memphis, honey, everybody was like, you don't want those lame so you want this so and so. But again, everything was supposed to happen because I ended up where I was supposed to be. I paid attention when I was supposed to pay attention and chose properly when I was supposed to choose properly. But also because I feel like bad guys are intriguing. You can't figure them out. Like, why are you so angry? And will you take that out on me? That might be it. It might be down to straight up biology and genetics and looking for the tough guy in the room, like so many animals, we gravitate toward that. So I can't necessarily say that it was for creative, because now that when I think about it, they really weren't creative. The two, like the bad guys that I told, like they weren't super creative at all. And
they're just intriguing.
Yeah, they were intriguing. They look good. When
you think about like bad boys, I think like a lot of like people in kind of your realm, the tattoo artists, they get that like stereotype of being this rebellious bad boys. Do you think Caravaggio, if he was like a modern day person, would have taken like a similar path as you, like started in the arts and then expanded his craft to tattooing?
I definitely think he wouldn't have painted religious stuff if he had patrons that were not the churches or whatever. And I bet he would be a tattooer. I could probably guess that he would be, unless he's gotten too many fights with customers. But
what do you like? What modern day style do you think he would have taken and like made his own in the tattoo world?
I think he would have stuck with this chiaroscuro, like this use of light and dark. And he would have definitely been a realism artist, no doubt about it. I can't see him doing abstraction. I mean, I personally, and I'll probably just say that because I'm projecting myself, but I am not like an abstract person. I do not have an eye to create abstract. Now, I might be able to do some dope backgrounds or sometimes ideas, but I have to work really hard to abstract, but I can draw figures with ease now in my sleep.
So, since we're talking about tattoos, I wanted to talk about the idea of like apprenticeships, because like all the greats back in the day, like Caravaggio, Da Vinci, all of them, they did apprenticeships. And that's something that tattoo artists still do today. From then to now, how important do you think that master and apprentice relationship is?
It's really helpful. I still love to take classes. I wish I had a real apprentice master relationship. I wish I could have gone through a real apprenticeship thing, both tattooing and art wise, because I had classes or whatever and things that I practiced, but it was never a grueling do this, how you do this is how you do this, no, don't do it that way, yada kind of deal, because that kind of structure I feel like makes you learn the correct way to do things, and then you're able to break them easier when you're ready to explore. You're not just always trying to learn how to do it the right way. If you learn it young, then you can break the rules. And that's how a lot of contemporary artists were. They were masters of traditional style art, like Renaissance art. So yeah, I feel like it's super important and helpful, and it would make you better overall to have that training. However, we do live in a world of YouTube, and YouTube is amazing because it can help you learn at your own pace and be able to re-reference things that you need to go back to see again, but it's missing something crucial, which is critique. And critique hurts our feelings sometimes. Critique can be difficult if you don't understand what it's for and how it works and why it's beneficial. And I miss so much true critique, and it took me a long time to really appreciate critique. And with a master apprentice relationship, you have that, so I have apprentices now. I really try to apprentice young ladies, especially young ladies of color when I can. But I have 3 or 4 apprentices, which is quite a bit, but one of them is my daughter, because I'm really wanting to impart the knowledge of what I've learned. I did not have an apprenticeship in tattooing like I would like to have had. So master and apprentice relationships, again, I think they're imperative and necessary no matter what style of art you're in. It's no need to reinvent the wheel. If somebody's already done it, we take that and build upon it and then create your own.
Well, I want to take a detour real quick and go to your love of anime, which is a world away from the Renaissance and Caravaggio. You said you were into it before you got to study abroad in Japan for a little bit, but what is it about anime for you? And
I think it's the kind of unbridled creativity that you're allowed to have in anime. You can be any animal or thing or mashup and have any power, and your story could be as silly or as serious as you want it to be. It's still all drawn. I really do not like CGI anime. I hate it. It just looks wrong, and it's the personal preference, obviously, but it's just not right. It doesn't move right. And it's anime too is very much more fluid in movement than American animations. If you just look at how their bodies move, especially like in fight scenes and stuff, it's more complex, but also super simple. And again, like, even though all the people in the animes up until pretty recently have been, paler skin, they have so many different types of creatures, peoples, aliens, animals, hybrids, whatever you can think of, that it's not really a race thing like it is in America.
Yeah, and then anime is also expanding because the fandom's always growing. I talk a lot to a lot of Black anime fans, and those people are going to grow up and they're going to start creating themselves. So there is going to be that, that inclusion, that diversity as the the fandom grows and who's going to create it in the future.
Well, I can tell you, back when I liked anime, I was the only Black person around me that loved to do anything about anime. When I used to go to conventions back in the day, it was a smattering of us there. Maybe,
you could count.
I could count them on both hands for the most part, and it was not looked upon nicely by other Black people. And I do love my daughter. She's a total anime fan as well, but I obviously grew up bringing her to conventions and cosplaying, etc., and watching it with me. So it's a whole different world now. There's just a ton of communities of Black people who love anime, video games, nerd stuff, fandoms in general, and it's awesome because they're putting their creativity into them and making new things.
I think the kids today, the little Black kids today, really need to pay their respect to us elders who were into the anime, the nerd stuff, the punk music. We set the trail for you. We were the ones at the show. There was 3 of us. And
exactly. And I was telling my daughter the other day, she was like, how come you don't know this anime, Mom? And I'm like, look, back when I had to go get anime, I had to go buy a VHS tape. And they were $60 to import them things, as they didn't always have subtitles. You have streaming, okay? So yes, you've watched more anime than poor Mom.
Blockbuster wasn't shipping them in all the time, okay?
Right. Okay, I had Sailor Moon at Blockbuster.
So thinking back, we're gonna go back to Mr. Wilson's class. Were there any other artists alongside Caravaggio that might have came in second or third for artistry crush?
Well, I really love Japanese art and anime artists. So Akira Toriyama and what's his name of it's the artist who does Final Fantasy's concept drawings, and my name is lost on me right now, but that artist, as well as what's his name, John Singer Sargent, his stuff was dope. But there's just so many amazing artists, I can't even keep track of them all.
I get it. It's I'm a big TV fan. TV's my thing, especially 90s TV. And then people are hey, well, what's your favorite? I'm okay, let me rap. I would just go on and on, but not know specifics, because I'm older now. My brain's not as sharp.
Yes.
I'm wait.
Brain exercises.
Let me get my IMDb. So we usually end this portion of the part of the interview talking about the guests and their crushes and these romantic lives they would envision. But for you, it's not so much a romantic crush, so we're gonna do it a little differently. So if somehow you and Caravaggio could be together right now and work on a mural together, where in Nashville would you want it to be, and what would you want the subject and overall look of it?
I kind of feel because my favorite Caravaggio is Judith beheading Holofernes, I've been wanting to do some sort of kind of big controversial mural, especially in the state of Tennessee. I would love to do something on these giant underpasses that they have in Nashville. You know how those retainer walls, they're really huge. There's a bunch of them downtown on 8th where it kind of curves. I would love to paint some controversial image like Judith beheading Holofernes on that retainer wall. I think
Let's contact the Nashville City of Commerce, wherever.
Oh, they would not let me pay nothing controversial. They love country music money.
Yeah, they're like, well, if it can be like Dolly Parton, just like being nice and pretty, which we love Dolly. She's amazing.
Yes.
Shout out to Dolly from Moderna.
Love Dolly.
So now it's time to talk more about what you have going on this fall, because you and your shop, One Drop Ink Tattoo Parlor, you guys are really huge into giving back to the community, whether it's events or doing just things around town. So what type of things do you guys have planned for this fall?
So we got a lot of stuff. And so we were one of the founders of the Jefferson Street Art Crawl, which myself and other artists came together to form a nonprofit to help support that venture in 2018. And we're revamping it now. And we are starting a new organization called the North Nashville Arts Coalition. And what that's going to do is be a safe haven for Black artists in North Nashville, and to create a permanent space for the arts and a love of art in North Nashville, because it's getting, taken away by gentrification. The tornado destroyed a lot of stuff over here in North Nashville and put even more of the community out of place. And what we want to do is just not lose the soul and culture of North Nashville, which has been just such a amazing place for Black Americans since the 1800s. And we have, effectively priced out most of the creatives that live here and in the area. And to keep, that up, we're going to be doing more events. The art crawl right now is finished for now because of the tornado and COVID. We hope to be able to bring that back in the future when some more businesses come back on Jefferson Street. But we're going to be doing other events like this creative community kickback, where we people come in, we have games, food, and we just chill and kick back and with other creatives, network, and learn about what they're doing, projects. Sometimes we have a speaker come out and talk to the artists about something important about the art or art industries. And it's just a free event to have people, connect in a meaningful way. Both new residents of the neighborhood who can come in and support the artists and creatives that made this neighborhood what they wanted to live in. We're also going to be doing live model sketch nights for figure drawing for people who want to be more serious about their art or learn new techniques. That's going to be in October. And we're also going to have a rage paint room in October as well. All of these are going to get posted up on our social media pages very soon. We're also I think we're going to have like a Tricker Ink, I think is what we're going to call it, which will also be listed with the other events. But we're going to be bringing a lot of programming to North Nashville and do our best to support Black artists, to help them be better and grow and have opportunities and places to show their work without being token called for Black History Month. And
you can celebrate this stuff outside of February, everybody.
Yes. You can support Black artists year round. So I definitely, I'm doing a lot of things, and I really love Nashville, but I definitely want to move somewhere in the next few years because I've never lived anywhere but Tennessee, and I've traveled a lot, but I really want to move somewhere and live and just see how different it is to live somewhere else. So I want to set up, let me tell you, but I really want to set up some stuff here before I leave, because I don't want to leave a void. Mm-hmm. There's, more people coming in who don't care about, the people who are still here, who own stuff here, who aren't trying to leave, and would be willing to make this just like every other gentrified spot, everywhere else in America, and kind of kill its individual kind of soul. So I want to set up something here to leave the people here with, a creative place and outlet and space to go to. So as far as me going, we considered a lot of places. We were going to go to Europe before the pandemic hit. We were supposed to be in Europe this year if we would have, if the pandemic would not have hit. But once the pandemic hit, we switched gears and we were like, well, nobody's going to want to import us. So it's going to be different than what we originally thought. So we went looking for U.S. territories where we wouldn't have to immigrate. And unfortunately, we decided against the territories. Even after visiting them, they were beautiful, but very expensive for no really good reason. And also, I don't want to be stuck in one place, I think. I really think that I want to be able to go wherever. And so what I think I'm going to do is go and get a boat. And we are going to live on this boat and we're going to sail around the world, because then I don't have to stay in one place.
So I was going to say, all you do goes along with like how your art, and as you've noted, you want to be seen as the voice of like the underserved in this world. And I think in America, this is like, I think a hard thing to do, because so many fall into that category. It's like, if you're not white, you're poor, or you're in the LGBT community, like, or you're just a woman in general, as we're seeing in Texas. Like, it's hard to feel like this country likes you and wants you to be here. So for you, how do you find the strength as like a Black woman in this country to like continue to go on and to continue to want to build a community in a country that's like kind of, disses you a lot of the time?
Girl, I have been hated since day one. I always feel like I am battling something to do anything that I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, just my mom, she grew up during civil rights. She was born in 58. So she's got a certain mindset about certain things. But even throughout all of that, she made sure that she got me everything I could to succeed. And even then, though, like trying to just get into tattooing was a battle. I didn't realize that I was going to be the first licensed Black artist in Middle Tennessee. I didn't know that that was a battle that I was going to have to fight, and wasn't one I planned on fighting. Everything about what I've wanted to do with my life has been a fight. People have never, like, the art world has never liked my artwork. And the only reason I have, kind of found any success in like my art has been because I was able to pay for creating and doing it through tattooing and advertising it through my money that I make from tattooing. I don't have gallery representation. I don't have, shows and things like that, things that I want to do, grants and things to make these ideas that I have. I don't have the funds to do the really big stuff. I've been using my money to, fund just being able to create my art in general. And I've been able to do a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger as I've gotten better with tattooing. But I really want my fine art to really kind of, take off so that I can do some of these really big and really unique ideas that I have in my head. And I'm always feeling like I'm fighting because I just don't fit the bill. I just feel really like I don't belong here, if in a weird way, like I don't feel like, and it's just like a battle for everything. It's a battle being accepted or being a part of all these creative things. And it's really weird because you would think that creative people would be more accepting. Mm-hmm. And it may just be because of the time we grew up in, and it was, more of a, you got to fit into this thing. Whereas now it's a lot more open. And I feel like had I been born around my daughter or, a little bit, older than her, that I would have been able to take off in a way that's different, because now it is that accepted thing. I'm really tired of battling. I get strength from the fact that when I do meet these young, artists out here who have so much talent and they have no kind of recourse, or they don't know what to do with it, or I have the ability to show them and give them that info for free, just for the love of it, and they don't give me that same judgment that the rest of the world does, if that makes any sense. They accept it and they use it, or they don't, but they at least have still some sort of passion, I guess, that keeps me going to continue to do this. Like, I just always think about how I wish I would have had somebody to do this thing for me, and how that could have affected, my art or my career now had I had that same thing. And I did have, obviously inspiration with Mr. Wilson, Miss Perry, and other teachers and educators. But, career-wise, you kind of left in the dark trying to figure out the fine art game, or the public art game. And that's another thing that I want to do right now is public art. I can reach so many more people with large scale interactive public art. And so that's like a new phase that I'm stepping into. So it's really, it's the fact that I have seen the results of what happens when somebody can help you or mentor you or whatever. And so that's why I have the strength to keep doing it, because I'd be wanting to just be like, look, I'm leaving.
Every day I'm like, can I just get a job in New Zealand? They have it together. It's just like open.
Listen, I'll be like, man, I'm gonna get this boat. I'm gonna get this boat, but I want to make sure I don't just dip. If we all just are always selfish all the time in certain things, then we will not ever get that world we want. And it's not that we shouldn't not be selfish. Sometimes we have to be, but is it really gonna kill me to wait another couple years to go? I'm already waited this long, You
have to have some strength because and then in the grand scheme, it's like when you don't have that help all the time, like some people, especially like rich white people, they can take these internships and their parents can get them in the right doors. You do just like have to build it yourself. And I think you've done a good job with that, with the community and with your tattoo shop. So can you tell people like where they can find your tattoo shop and they're ever in the Nashville area?
Yes. So my tattoo shop's called One Drop Ink Tattoo, Parlour and Gallery, and it's on historic Jefferson Street. And you can visit us at onedropink.com. That's spelled out ONEDROPINK.com. And we do have a walk-in artist right now, but most of us are appointment only. So you need to hit us up early, like months, if you want to get in, because we are the #1 shop in Nashville, boo, with hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google. Go check them out. You can find me at queenbeeink.com or on Instagram at queenbeeink. That's honeybee, BEEINK. And North Nashville Arts Coalition, it's going to be northarts.org. The website's not done yet, but it'll be posted on my page as well. So come out, see us for the events, watch our pages, stay in touch. I'm really hard to get my social media together, but I'm working on it so that I can have a more consistent posting of everything that's going on. But it's really hard to post and tattoo at the same time. I was trying to get somebody to do it for me. I'm looking for a social media handler, like a really good one. So.
Well, I think your skins, they really appreciate you not going live on Instagram with one hand and trying to tattoo with the other.
Exactly.
Well, Elisheba, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today about your artist crush. And everyone, you can find all of that information below in the description. And until next time, keep crushing it.